My name is Marek Rudak, and the goal of this video is to ignite your heart to lead in personal professional relationships. And to do that today, we're going to reflect on the fact, not just an idea, the fact that it doesn't matter how bad you're doing, God says different. It doesn't matter how bad you're doing, God says different. And this reflection is inspired by my most recent Christian lunch. I get the privilege to lead Christian lunches for the veteran community here in Houston. And I've been very blessed to get some really fantastic speaker. Our last speaker, Sam Askins, man, he killed it. There was some tears, there was some laughter, there was some screaming, you name it, everything in between, and it worked. I mean, I just looked at the surveys, people really enjoyed it. And he talked about all different things, but the core of his message, at least from my standpoint, was that, again, it doesn't matter how bad you're doing, God says difference. And what he did is he talked about the various addictions that he went through: alcohol, drugs, PTSD, and how all these addictions and all these afflictions and all these mental things kept telling him, hey, you can't do this, you can't overcome this. The best you can do is just drink yourself to death, so that way your family gets insurance payment from your death. That's how bad it was for him, until he finally realized that it doesn't matter how bad he's doing, because God says different. And that single idea was the beginning of his recovery. Now he's doing really well, and it all can be traced to that moment when he finally realized that it didn't matter how bad he was doing, God says different. And even though I have not experienced as harsh or as extreme difficulties as Sam has, and probably you haven't either, I'm pretty quite sure that all of us can relate to that statement, in a sense that whenever we make mistakes, or at least what we perceive as mistakes, whether we go through a divorce, a bad breakup, we get laid off from a job, or we think that our boss doesn't like us, we develop a belief that we're not good enough to make it past that mistake. It's like we create a chain. And I like to use an image. You guys know I love images and I love stories. Image stories are the best. And I'm going to steal this story from one of my friends from high school. His name is Darman. He's crushing it on YouTube. In fact, I saw an invite to some kind of a seminar on how to grow your audience. Obviously, I need it. Who knows? Maybe I'll pick something up. But the point of it is the story is great. I'm sure at some point in your life you've been to a circus, or you've seen a movie or a TV show with a circus, and you've probably seen an elephant who's tied to a small stake in the ground. And I've really thought about it, but if you think about it, why is that little stake holding a huge elephant? How is that possible? Well, as it turns out, the reason why that's possible is because the elephant has been tied down to that stake ever since he or she was a baby. And so when the elephant was a baby, it wasn't strong enough to rip that small stake. And so as the elephant grew, it assumed that he or she will never be able to remove that stake. Even though the elephant is now a couple hundred pounds, in its mind, it thinks that it's not strong enough to rip off that stake, just as it was when the elephant was younger. And it's very similar in our lives. And in fact, that's the bulk of my coaching session, is identifying those chains that hold my clients back. My clients say things like, hey, I can't do this because in the past, I failed at leading this particular task, or hey, I can't have that conversation with a loved one because it was a disaster. And it's a chain that is holding those people back from leading in their personal professional relationships. So my friends, what I'd like you to do is take a pause and think about what are those chains that are holding you back. And if you need some help from an objective observer like myself to help you identify those chains and help you identify the simple steps you can make to rip those chains out, I'm sorry for my English, please go to cs1mindset.com, sign up for a complimentary relationship audit, and I'll see you next time. God bless, and talk to you soon.